Hey there, light beings. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to discuss navigating friendships in your 20s. And we really need to get into this because nobody really prepares you for how complicated friendships in your 20s are. So, we're going to start off by discussing the friendship fantasy versus the reality. So, for me personally, I would have expectations about what I wanted my friendships to look like. And that would consist of long lasting loyalty. So, having someone be loyal to me long term, not necessarily having a time frame on what that would look like, but just being like, okay, so we're going to be friends for a long time. You're going to be loyal to me for a long time. Constant communication. This could look like check ins every day. This could look like FaceTime calls every day. But what it really looks like is the distance that you will have in your friendships does not mean that there's a disconnect. There has to be space in connections, period, to let them breathe, to let them grow. The same way that you give yourself space when you're overwhelmed, when you need to just take a step back and be by yourself and listen to yourself, is the same thing that you have to do in friendships because they can become very suffocating when you don't allow space. You're also going to find that there may be misalignment within the values in the friendship. And that's okay because usually they become more visible in connections. And the other reality is that presence in a connection matters more than the history that you have with the person. For example, you could have a friend that you've been friends with since the third grade. And although you guys have a lot of history, this person is not currently present in your current life and is not adding any value to your current life. And it's just simply out of alignment, because being out of alignment doesn't necessarily mean that there is any bad blood between you guys. It just simply means, like, okay, this connection ran its course. I'm grateful for what it is that you taught me. I'm grateful that I taught you something. I'm grateful for the memories that we had, and we just have to leave it at that. And if it's ever meant for us to reconnect, then it's meant. If it's not, then it's not, and you can't force that. And it's very important to realize that, because you can outgrow people that you once deeply loved. It's actually normal to outgrow people, because we as individuals who do the work are constantly evolving and constantly growing and finding what works for us and what no longer works for us. Same thing as your connection, as your friend. They're figuring themselves out. They may be in a dilemma where they're going through the same cycles or forming karmic connections, or they may just be so sure of themselves that they know that, hey, being your friend no longer aligns with me, or I have to take a step back because I have to now focus on a different area within my life, which requires me to now have to focus on myself and on my family, or whatever the case is. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is any love lost. Again, you have to hold on to the good things that came out of the connection, because connections teach us lessons. They can either show us who we're meant to become or show us what our life can potentially look like if we don't choose ourselves. They can teach us new perspectives, new ways of showing up in a space creatively. And it should just be normalized to outgrow without there being any beef or any drama. Now, in past connections in my early 20s, so this is like 19, 20, 21, I've noticed patterns that I've had. And that would be over giving, over explaining, and people pleasing. There were moments where I would do things that I knew I wasn't comfortable with for the sake of my friends. And it would put me in an awkward position because I didn't listen to myself and my intuition, where my body's telling me, like, no, this is not for you. And that's okay. You can sit this one out. However, I would feel like, okay, if I say no, if I decide to stay home and not go, one, am I missing out on something? Two, are these people going to look at me differently and be upset with me and never invite me somewhere again? And three, I felt like it was my duty to show up all the time in a connection, to maintain this perfect friend or this good friend characteristic, when really, when you choose yourself, you're also being a good friend, because you're recognizing and you're showing your friend, like, hey, this doesn't work for me, so I'm going to sit this one out. And it shows them, like, hey, you can do the same thing. If you're not feeling it, you don't have to go. You don't have to, just say yes because you want to be around your friends or you want to come off a certain way. And with these people pleasing tendencies, they got me into a lot of chaotic and sticky situations. When you don't trust what your body is telling you, your body is going to start to resist because you're not supposed to be doing what it is that you're doing. And so that may look in the form of irritation. That may look like in the form of being reserved or having an attitude, whatever the case is. And you can honestly just bring down the vibe, or, have the vibe shift a little bit, because you're truly forcing yourself into a space and situation that you're not supposed to be in. So it's really best to just not put yourself in that situation. And that goes into having boundaries. Lessons that I've learned within my connections in my early 20s is that boundaries are not punishment. They're not punishment for you, they're not punishment for your friends. They are put in place so that it is clear how you would like this person to show up for you, and it's clear how you show up for yourself. What your non-negotiables are, what your yeses are, and that should honestly be one of the first things that is discussed in a connection, when forming a connection, because it'll go to show how much someone's going to respect you. If they react to your boundaries like, I'm not doing that, you're asking for a little bit too much, like that's kind of crazy, instead of it being like, okay, I respect that, and these are my boundaries, or I respect that, I'm going to work towards that. Because at the end of the day, like, if you're forming a connection with someone, or even if you're already in a connection and you have new boundaries, because again, we are evolving, we constantly evolve, and it's okay to have new boundaries. You want to really discuss that and see how someone will be able to compromise with you. We're human. Not everyone's going to get it right all the time, but it is the effort that they put into respecting your boundaries that counts. So if you're setting a boundary with a friend and you see that they are continuing the same patterns that they did before you initiated the boundary, you could definitely reinstate the boundary and let them know, hey, like, I see that you did this again and this doesn't work for me. So if you do it again, then I'm going to distance myself. Or if you do it again, then I'm not going to talk to you. If you do it again, then I'm just going to text you, or whatever the case is, because that is your way of showing your friend, like, hey, this is a non-negotiable. I'm not playing around. Like, you don't get to just walk all over me and treat me any kind of way. And I think that's a very powerful lesson. Another lesson would be, this one's deep, that some people don't respect access until you take it away. They just don't. They don't respect the access that they have to you until you take it away. Now, this could simply look like you having your friend over, they getting comfortable, taking off their shoes, speaking loudly on the phone, playing games on the phone, just ranting about whatever it is they want to rant about, and you're sitting there in your space like yeah, I like that you're comfortable, but don't be too comfortable to where now you're making me uncomfortable in my own house. No. So now it's gonna be, look, this is cool, this is cute, but we're only gonna be able to do this once a week now for a few hours. We can talk about what's going on in your life that is helping you to progress. But that's it. I don't want to hear about any other BS or anything else that's going on with somebody else, because it got nothing to do with us. And there are gonna be moments where people realize, like, hey, like, dang. Okay, so I gotta respect it because I love you, I care about you. So I'm gonna show up how you need me to show up. So I'm gonna kick my shoes off. I'm going to talk about positive things and things that are progressing within me. We're going to catch up. And in about 4 hours, I'm a dip. Now, if your friend respects that boundary, good for you. Seriously, good for you. If they don't, it's going to show clear as day that they don't respect you, and it really has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them, because it's all a reflection on what's going on internally. Okay, so if they can't respect your boundaries, they probably don't have their own boundaries, which is a red flag. Now, another lesson would be that not everyone deserves front row seats to your healing. Not everyone deserves it, and that's okay. I feel that our bodies tell us who does deserve front seats and who doesn't deserve front seats. You're aware, it's up to you to listen. That's the thing. Are you going to listen? Or are you going to feel like, "Oh no, I have to stay in this connection. We have so much history, and this person is a good person." But sis, is it aligned with where you're going right now? Is it aligned with right now in this moment? Because let's be real, we have to really be present in our connections and continue to reflect on whether or not the connections are bringing what they need to bring to the table. If they don't, it is okay. It is okay to take a step back. It is okay to let it go with grace and with ease, and to have it be a communication. Don't be ghosting people out here now. Don't do that now, because that's avoidance. You don't want to avoid the situation, the conflict, the realness, because in these connections it's real. We're all discovering who we are in our early 20s. We're breaking these barriers. We're realizing, hey, like, what I'm doing is wrong, and what I'm doing is something that actually my mom used to do that I used to hate, and now I'm doing it, or that my dad used to do that I used to hate that I'm doing it, that my grandma used to do that I hate that now I'm doing it. something's got to give. When you sit with yourself and you realize these things, you're going to realize, hey, I'm changing, I'm shifting. Are the connections that I'm currently in going to reflect the values that I now have? And if they're not, they got to go. And that's okay. Another lesson I've learned is that there are going to be people or friends or connections where they value your presence but not your truth. And this one is heavy too because it's like, okay, you like being around me, you like hanging out with me, you like spending time with me when it's accessible to you, when it benefits you. But when I set my boundaries, when I speak my truth, there's always a counter. Just always having something to say. Why is it that when I allow you to speak your truth, I hold space for you, I allow you to show up as you are, because what you do is for you and what I do is for me. But when it's the other way around, it's not respected. You're not holding space. You're more so giving an input. What if I didn't want an input? And I think it's very important to also voice that too. If you are ranting to a friend and you just want them to listen, you don't want them to say anything or have any input, first ask them if they have the capacity. Do you have the capacity to hear me out right now? Do you have the capacity to listen to what's been going on in my head or going on in my life or how my week went? Like, I have to rant right now. Do you have the capacity for that? And if they do, they're like, okay, thank you, but I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to hear me because I just need to get this off my chest and I just need someone to listen. That's okay. That's okay. And if you do want them to speak on it or to provide their opinion, you then have to really reflect on how it is that you're feeling in that moment, because you could be willing to listen, like actively listen, and then respond, or you could feel like, okay, I feel like I could listen, but I also feel like I'm going to be a little reactive because I know that this friend is going to give it to me real and raw and probably tell me things that I don't want to hear, that I do have to hear. So you really have to reflect on you before you allow that space. I also want to get into the differences within friendships, because again, you are two different individuals. You show up differently, you have different values, you have different traumas, you have different communication styles, right? And not everyone communicates the same. And that's okay. For me personally and my connections, there are times where I get overwhelmed within my own life and it affects how I show up in my connections. However, I let that be known if I need space. Like, hey, I'm going through something right now and I just need a few days to myself. I will hit you back in 2 days. Or, hey, I'm just really not feeling like myself right now. I am going to take a week off of my phone. Whatever, I communicate that. Now, for someone else, if they need space, the space might look different for them. Space to them might be like 2 hours. Space to them might be the next day, and then that's it. And that's okay. Now, when it comes to communicating, you have to respect the fact that every individual has a different style of communicating. I have a friend that does not like texting at all. She prefers emails, notes, voice notes, and that's okay, right? I have other friends who prefer text messaging instead of speaking over the phone. Everybody communicates differently, and that is okay. That also has to be discussed in a connection so that you are showing up the way that your friend needs you to show up and that your friend is showing up the way that you need them to show up for you. So it's reciprocated. Now, I also want to add that because everyone communicates differently, that doesn't make it okay to have a lack of effort. Because the friend that prefers emails and voice messages, right? I show up for her in that way. I email her, I send voice messages, we send it back and forth, and I actually enjoy it. Now, if I was someone who didn't align with that and I didn't let it be known and I just like wasn't responding or acknowledging the fact that, hey, like this is how she wants to show up and this is how she likes to communicate, that's not okay. Like that's not okay. Because if it's really not for you and it's not aligned, then you need to let that person know. Because if you truly respect and you truly honor your friendships, you'll let that be known. For me personally, I value communication, I value emotional depth, and I value mutual effort. When those three aspects are not met, I feel that very deeply. Like very deeply, because I'm an empath and I'm an emotional person. And I just want to let you know that it is okay to say and to realize that a dynamic no longer works for you. This dynamic no longer works for me. That's okay to realize. Now I know we're discussing all of this. Okay, this no longer works for me. Okay, let this person go. Okay, like they're no longer serving me. And I'm just supposed to be okay with that? Like there's nothing coming after that. Like what's going on? No. No. There will be grief. There there is grief when you outgrow people. Trust and believe. You're going to go through those wave of emotions because grief comes in phases. You can have grief even with boundaries because the connection is now shifting. There's a different dynamic now, but it's also honoring where you are. So, again, this goes back to you having gratitude for what it used to look like and reflecting on what it used to look like and now being able to start something new and something that's more aligned when you set those boundaries. Grief also comes up when you let go of spaces that used to hold you and that used to be safe. Because safe spaces allow you to show up as who you are with no judgment. They make you feel heard and seen and supported and comforted. And when you have to decide to let that go, you're you're going to go through grief because now you have to establish what a safe space will look like moving forward. Now that that old safe space is not around, now that that connection has ran its course. And you'll also be mourning not only the connection or the person, but you're also going to be mourning the version of you, the version who you used to be, because you are constantly growing and evolving and shifting. So you're no longer that same person that was in that friendship, same person that you were when you first became friends with this person. And it's okay to realize that and give yourself grace because it's a good thing that you're not the same person. Give gratitude for the person that you were because that person didn't know what you know now. But that person is now so proud of you because you're choosing yourself. Sometimes when we walk away from emotionally unavailable people or emotional unavailability in general, it could bring up old wounds. It could mirror those old wounds. And it's okay to be sad and to sit in your feelings, the feelings that come up. because it's natural. You're reflecting, and reflection is a part of the healing process and realizing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It all comes back to yourself. It all comes back to choosing you. And so when I choose myself on purpose, I take pride in advocating for my needs and for my values. And so if someone is not showing up in a way where I feel held or it feels mutual, genuine, or reciprocated, then I communicate that. And based on how it's interpreted and based on how someone responds or reacts to it, will be how I choose to move on. Because at the end of the day, I know I deserve connections that respect me. And I find so much joy in solitude because outside of all the connections and the noise, who I am when nobody's around is so important, and it reflects the person that I am in my connections. Because when you have your solitude, when you have those moments of silence, you get to sit with yourself and learn about yourself and learn about what works for you, what triggers you, what brings you joy, what makes you feel whole, makes you feel seen. And I find safety in that. There's a lot of safety within my own company. And so if I feel safe within myself, I want to feel safe within my connections because I deserve to feel safe.